Welcome back into Thimbleberry U. I am John Janke. I'm joined again by Amy Walls from Thimbleberry Financial. Amy, always great to be with you.
Jag, it is always fun to talk to you.
And I love talking to you because in your line of work, you deal out there in Portland and really all over with a lot of folks that work in the tech sector specifically. I know it's a lot of your business. And some folks that work in the tech sector might have different situations than, like me as a small business owner or anybody else listening. So we're talking today about landing your first big job in tech and then what, right?
Absolutely. Great question. What do you do? And I hear this so frequently.
It's like, oh my God, like I landed this big job at company XYZ and this is going to be a great start to my future. And I don't know what to do. So what is the absolute first thing to do when you land that big tech job?
The right answer is don't change a thing. For the time being.
Okay.
Because I think when there is a big change like that, and sometimes in these situations, this might mean someone's income doubling.
Yeah.
That could be the case. And so I think our natural inclination as Americans is to say, ooh, I can change my lifestyle. I can have some of the things that I have not let myself have up until this point. And it's not to say that eventually people can't have that, but it's a little like winning the lottery.
Yeah.
You don't want to change a thing because if you do, you're potentially going to make yourself worse off. So maintain the status quo until you get your ducks in a row. That's the first thing you do.
I feel like for a lot of folks, there's that big ticket bucket list thing where it's like, all right, I'm going to go buy the sports car, or I've been renting and I'm going to go buy a house or a condo or whatever it is. But really, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, Amy, having that savings, having that emergency savings really is always priority number one. So you want to make sure that you have, and not as backup plan in case you were to lose a job, but just in general to have that emergency savings, have that set and sort of catch your breath and get a feel for what your day-to-day and week-to-week and month-to-month is going to look like in that job before you make any major decisions, any major life purchases, right?
Absolutely. It's so important to take stock of where you're at before any big changes or during any change. And if you start changing multiple things at the same time, and sometimes we have to, sometimes that's just the way it is. But if you do that, it's often easy to get a little lost in the process of doing so and maybe do some things that later on you're more likely to regret.
We talked in a previous episode about what to do with a windfall and this pitfall of spending the same money multiple times. Like you think, oh, I got this money coming, so I'll spend it. Oh, the money's here, so I'll spend it. Oh, I just got that money, so I'll spend it. Next thing you know, you spent the same money multiple times, which when you crunch the numbers, doesn't work out so well. So you might overspend when you get this, in a sense, windfall of a new position that pays you a lot more money. So having that baseline, I think, is so important.
Jag, I totally agree with you. And I think one of the things that sometimes people forget is in transition, multiple things often transition. And sometimes goals and desires become more clear, or you realize the things you thought you wanted weren't what you actually want any longer because you're experiencing a new thing. So with that in mind, you're right. You can end up spending the same money twice, or you spend money that you realize I just absolutely should not have done that.
I've heard this analogy of someone who had a dream to have an Aston Martin sports car. It was like $150,000 car. What did he do? Before he bought one, he went to like some famous racetrack and got to like race one around a racetrack for a day for instead of $150,000 for $1,500. And he's like, wow, that was fun. I fulfilled what I need to fulfill in my brain. I don't need to drop $150,000 on this. Or you might think that you want to move to an island somewhere if it's like a tech company that's letting you work remotely for somewhere. And you might find out after a couple weeks, boy, it's really remote out here. I'm
lonely.
I miss Costco or whatever it is. So that testing decision, it's why you don't want to jump into anything without, the whole look before you leap thing.
Yes.
Okay, so now we have, maintain the status quo, trying to get a baseline. What is next after landing this big job in tech?
The first thing is, once you've started and you have your benefits, you'll have an idea of your benefits before, but you probably won't have the details. It's to go through those. And while it's not fun, it's figure out what to choose. I'm going to start with the benefits piece. There's some other pieces, and Jag, you touched on some of these that we can talk about after. But foundationally, in a solid financial plan, there's cash reserves, there's debt, and there's insurance. So employers offer most of the time, and for a position like we're talking about, life insurance and disability insurance.
Yeah.
It's no fun to talk about. It's not any fun to spend money on. And it is so important. And so if we're talking about someone's first big job in tech, one, hopefully they're at a place in their career now where they've got the cash flow and they recognize that they are in a specialized industry and they have specialized skills.
Yeah.
And as such, it is important to take advantage of the disability insurance the employer offers. It may be free, in which case that is an easy decision. Sometimes it's a harder decision when the employee needs to pay for that coverage or they have a buy-up option on that disability insurance.
What do you mean by buy-up option?
Yeah, sometimes an employer will say, hey, we'll give you 60% free of charge. 60% of your salary would come back to you if you were disabled.
Okay.
That's pretty standard in terms of a percentage from an employer. But sometimes you can buy that up to 65 or 70% of your salary. And that's a really smart thing to do. Because in an industry like tech, where you are specialized, you may not have the physical things that could go wrong with you, right, as much because you're not doing risky work.
Yeah.
But brain issues can definitely play a role. And if you, as we'll talk about, make some lifestyle changes as a result of this new job, you probably are going to need a backup for having some amount of income coming in if you did become disabled.
You talk about stepping off the curb and getting hit by the proverbial bus. You could be talking about a stroke. You could be talking about a traumatic brain injury. Maybe you're not 65 years old and is worried about Alzheimer's or dementia, but anything can happen to anybody at any age.
Absolutely.
I think about disability insurance for myself. It's on my list of things I need to do in 2022.
We'll talk about that after, Jag.
Yeah, as a small business owner, if I had damage to my ears or I broke my arm and I couldn't type or something like that, that is something that would be a very big problem for me if I did not have disability insurance. So that point is certainly well taken. And then life insurance as well, right?
Absolutely. With life insurance, I think through an employer, it's important to consider that. Maybe you don't have a family, but maybe you're in a serious relationship or you're saying, I really am looking forward to that day. When you start with a new employer, you have a window of opportunity to take advantage of life insurance that you won't have the option to sign up for later. Meaning, when you first start with an employer, you don't have to prove insurability up to a certain level. Perhaps at all. It's going to depend on the employer. But the next year at open enrollment, you're going to have to prove eligibility for that coverage if you want it. So take advantage of what you might want the first year, because just like with disability insurance, and I alluded to this but did not explicitly state it, you're unlikely to get healthier in the future.
And that's why sometimes for these life insurance plans, if you don't take advantage early enough, you might have to have a physical exam. You might have a lot of questionnaires. You might have to have somebody come to your house and all these things that go with, making sure you're insurable. So yeah, absolutely take advantage, and the earlier you can, the better.
Yeah. So those are the foundational pieces of a solid financial plan that you can get through your employer. From there, it's looking at savings plans and equity compensation. So your 401k. So for example, how much can you contribute? If you were having a big income increase and you hadn't been maximum funding your 401k, this might be the perfect opportunity to put the maximum amount in. In 2021, that was $19,500. In 2022, that's $20,500 that you can put in. So I want to be clear that maximum funding a 401k, for example, is not contributing up to the amount of your employer's match. It's putting in $20,500.
Okay.
At least in 2022.
It's not maximizing the match, it's maximizing the total dollar amount.
Exactly. And that number is set by the IRS. Now, here's the other thing. And we're on the cusp of the possibility that the Build Back Better bill is going to go through. And if it does, then what I'm about to say won't matter. But if it doesn't, then your plan may also have the option for what is called a mega backdoor Roth contribution.
Mm-hmm.
So there is actually a higher dollar amount that is the cap someone can get put into the 401k each year. So that is a combination of employee deferrals that we just talked about, the $20,500, employer match, and then whatever is left can be contributed by the employee after tax.
That's after tax as opposed to before. Okay.
Yep. And then some plans allow you to then convert that. That's called a mega backdoor Roth. You convert it to a Roth. Under the Build Back Better bill, if it passes, that goes away. But it's worth looking at if you have it. And I think before starting it, at least this year, it's a good idea to wait and see what the legislation looks like it's going to do.
Well, we're recording this, of course, on January 11th. So again, things change in Washington, sometimes at a snail's pace and sometimes instantaneously. So what we're talking about is accurate as of this recording.
Yes.
Okay, Amy, let's move on to the next item on our list, ESPP. And what does that stand for?
Oh, Jag, you're speaking my love language right now. Yeah, employee stock purchase plans. This is where an employee can buy stock in the company, normally at a discount.
Okay.
And we have, I think, touched on this in multiple podcasts. So I'll just give the brief overview. The best of these plans allow you to buy it, say, at a 15% discount every 6 months, and you get a 15% discount on the lowest stock price in those 6 months. So it can be a great way to get stock in the company. It can be a great way to just get free money because if you think about it, that discount is a lot like a 401k match.
And somewhat related to that, I mean, this is often unique in this sector, as we've said before, and that is equity compensation, like RSUs and stock options, those restricted stock units. What can you tell me about those, and what should a new employee in the tech sector be doing with regard to that?
Yeah, I think this is an area that gets very confusing. RSUs are a little more straightforward than stock options. And again, just for time, I'm not going to go into great detail here, but basically this is when the company says, hey, look, we're going to give you stock in our company, and it's incentive for you to help the company do well and make some money on it, later on. But there are tricks and tips around making sure you use RSUs to your advantage and stock options to your advantage and not get hit with unexpected tax bills from them. So I think once you have these, it's the time to get a CPA.
Yeah, that is somebody who is going to be on top of what all the rules and regulations are and will help protect you in tandem with a financial advisor. What about outside items aside from what the employer is offering you in terms of all these benefits?
Yeah. So we started this talking about a big salary increase. So I think it's a great time to go back and double check your property and casualty insurance, especially on umbrella policy. Once your income starts to increase, you end up, unfortunately, really with a target on your back.
Yeah.
And I don't like scare tactics, but if you've got someone that comes over and gets hurt on your property, or you hit and injure somebody while driving your vehicle and they realize what you do and what kind of income you might have or what kind of assets you might have, well, there's some incentive there for the numbers in a lawsuit to go up. So an umbrella policy is just going to help add an extra layer of precaution. And overall, they're relatively inexpensive for the coverage they provide.
Very true. Okay, what else?
Additionally, this is a great time to complete your estate planning.
Yeah.
Or to review your estate planning if you haven't done it. And that is because really, again, your situation has changed. If your income has doubled, you may be looking at what you're going to be saving and how your assets are going to be growing and which accounts are growing. And you might be saying, my beneficiaries need to change. Or, yeah, I'm at the point where I think now I want to trust when before I thought a will was adequate.
Got it. I mean, we're talking about a whole different world here, and you've got to be protected. And that includes looking forward to your future needs as well, even though you may have just started in this job.
Absolutely. As a woman in a man's world, I I can be sensitive to what some of the women in tech are going through. And this applies to anyone in tech, but women more so. And that is that people age out of tech earlier than other industries and careers. So it's important to look at realistically, conservatively, how much time you really could have in a career in this industry and what your plans would be. A lot of our female clients in tech plan to go into consulting and be self-employed. So you can make plans now to know that you're still going to be on track for financial independence or retirement.
Absolutely.
And then also be thinking, right, because I don't know if our listeners in this case are younger or older, where they're at in their career, but it might be that you got this job and you're thinking, I'm going to be starting a family in a few years.
Sure.
What does family leave look like? Is that something I should start preparing for now and have flexibility for money to cover some of those expenses or to go towards kids' education or my years of not working?
And it's interesting with those family leave policies because a lot of them you'll be covered in that time you're taking off, but there may be an option for you to take longer time than you're going to be paid for. And if you have a little bit of money socked away for that purpose, maybe you get some more time with that new baby that you wouldn't have normally had if you have planned for it ahead of time.
Absolutely. And some of these companies are very open to sabbaticals also. We've got clients planning to take sabbaticals that their company either endorses or they know that in tech, I switch employers every 3 to 5 years. And so I'm going to create my own sabbaticals in between job changes of 6 months unemployed.
Wow. That actually leads into the final item on our agenda, which is those flexible work schedules, right?
Absolutely. And I think this brings it full circle. If you've got a flexible work schedule, you're working virtually, what is it that you want out of life in a different way than maybe you thought about it before? And I think the only way to really get there and know that, which is why it's important to maintain the status quo for a while, is to live doing that job to see what's important to you. But it might be that all of a sudden, it's really important to me that I have a second house near my parents because of my flexible work schedule. I want to be able to help them out.
Yeah.
And so, what is that? There's new possibilities and opportunities that will come up. And so you don't want to pigeonhole yourself.
I think the last 2 years has really shown that it's an employee's market as opposed to an employer's market. And a lot of companies are having to offer a lot more flexibility in that department now that we have figured out over the last 2 years how to work remotely.
I fully agree. Our team just expanded and we're very excited about our new members. And it means we are moving much more virtually than we had a couple years ago.
Sign of the times indeed. And if somebody wants to come talk to you or anybody on that newly expanded team, Amy, at Thimbleberry Financial, what are the best ways to find you?
Yeah, they can reach us online at thimbleberryfinancial.com or by giving us a call at 503-610-6510.
Great stuff as always, Amy. We'll talk again soon.
Sounds great, Jag. Thanks.
Registered representative, securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisor representative, Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Thimbleberry Financial are not affiliated.